All right, so everybody is rolling in. We're going to give everybody, it is 1 o'clock right now. We'll give everybody just another minute or two to jump in, and then we will get going. Thanks everybody for coming on. All right, it's 101, so let's get going. Jen and Heather, you guys will both need to come off mute. Um, so thank you both for being here. You guys are both of you ladies are extremely busy and doing a ton of business. So thanks for taking some time out of your day to join me and the rest of the agents on this call. Thank you. Before we get into it, I'd like maybe each of you just to take 30 seconds to a minute to just introduce yourself. Let us know maybe how long you've been in real estate, where you focus, what your experience looks like, and certainly tell us what area of the country you're from. So Jen, if you don't mind going first, I appreciate
Okay.
it.
Realtor Jen, Key Realty, Traverse City, Northern Michigan. I've been doing this since 2019 is all. So I made the change as an adult woman who had some major family changes and kids were out of the nest. And I love real estate. It's a good fit for me, and I think I'm a really good fit for it. When I got into real estate, investment clients just kind of fell into my lap. I kind of think it was a spiritual thing that was the direction I was supposed to go. So I have a lot of investment clients. I work with a lot of short-term rental situations, long-term rentals, and I just absolutely love it.
Awesome. So, for those of you who aren't familiar with Traverse City is a beautiful resort town in northern Michigan. So, you have a unique marketplace, high selling point, lots of high-end rentals, lots of high-end sales. So, I
Right.
think the
Right.
average sale price is probably north of a half million in your market, right?
Well, the average sale price is still in the 400,000s, but my average sale is in the fives, but I also do a commercial project, which are small storage barns, so that brings down my average a little bit. And I will say I had a real estate coach when I first got into this industry, and I fought it, but I went with it and I've stayed with him all along, and he is largely responsible for where I'm at.
Well, that's a nice credit. I'm sure this person would love to hear that. And probably this person would disagree with you and say, hey, I just gave you the guidance and you did the work. So,
Right. Oh, well,
congratulations
that's
on your
true.
success, Jen.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heather, if you don't mind, kind of introing yourself, please.
Sure. Yeah, Heather Hemphill. I'm actually in the central Indiana market, um, and I have been doing real estate since 2015. Jen, it sounds like we have some things in common. I didn't start until after a major life change, and my kids were basically almost out of the house. And so it's been 10 years. I started out on a team with another company and then just kind of ended up out on my own. Um, what else did you want me to answer?
Um, I think that's it. Just kind of your experience, your area, how long you've been doing it. Yeah, I think
What's
I
your
think you
area of expertise?
Residential resale, so listing and selling. I love first time home buyers. Um, Almost all my work is referrals, and so a lot of my kids are adults now, and so I'm getting a lot of their friends buying houses who are
well,
getting
that's
married,
nice.
which I
See,
love.
those
Yeah,
kids pay off eventually. At some
they
point, they become
do.
an asset, Heather. You finally
They
got
do.
there.
All the money we spent on travel soccer is finally
Right.
coming back around. So
Travel baseball here.
yeah.
I asked my
It is.
15-year-old son the other day, this is funny that you brought this up. Said, "Hey, Henry, when do you think you're going to start being an asset instead of a liability?" And he just looked at me and just kind of moved on. I don't think it registered. So,
Well,
on
mine
that
are
note,
26 and 30, and they're still kind of a liability. So there you go.
we love them anyway. So,
That's right.
all right, so today we're going to talk a little bit about from first meeting to closing table and just a little bit of strategy, a little bit of negotiation, maybe just a few pearls of wisdom as we kind of go through this. So the first kind of segment we're going to talk about is buyer consultations and commitments. So I'll start with you, Heather, on this one. What is your consultation flow and how do you get buyers to commit? As a maybe a little bit of context, many agents fear sounding pushy. They don't want to be salesy. So maybe sharing your bridge, the bridge the gap between professionalism and comfort in that conversation.
Yeah. Well, I do think it helps that the majority of my work is referral based. So
Hmm.
someone has already told them about me and referred me. Um, I do not like to be pushed at all. You push me, I'm just probably going to just say, no, thank you. So I kind of take that on in my own business. I really make it a very good point not to be pushy at all. I go into my consultations with lots of questions. I like to listen to my buyers and sellers both. Just what are you looking for? What tell me a little bit about yourself and your family, and just getting to know them a little bit. And then we kind of talk about their needs and their timelines and all of that. And so I guess I don't think that anybody has ever felt pushed by me because I, again, make it a point definitely not to be pushy.
You're showing value, you're focusing on them, and
Hmm.
building that rapport where I think I hear what you're saying is essentially like once it's time to like sign the paperwork, they're already on board with that because you made that process easy, you've showed value.
Yeah, I
Jen,
think so.
anything additional you would share along those lines?
I totally agree with the no pushy thing. That would turn me right off. And there have been times where I've met somebody where I thought maybe I was just too much or just, I defended a point in real estate too hard and then I ended up, getting that client and I asked them, "Why did you pick me? I thought maybe, I came off too strong." And he said, "No, I picked you because you are so passionate." So I think if we're passionate about what we do, we almost sell ourselves innately without having to be pushy. I mean, you have to recognize who that buyer or seller is, their personality. We need to know how to read that because somebody who's very introverted is not going to like over the top Jen. So I need to reel it in for that person. And
Yeah.
then I usually take a contract with me or I solidify to them that, if you want to go and see a house right now, if you're the buyer and you want to see the house right now, we need to sign this paperwork, even if it's just for today, so that I can legally get you into this house to protect you and protect me. And one of the things that I do to close the deal of that buyer is that I share what a lender shared with me. And that is that as an agent, legally, we're not supposed to be able to tell them everything about a property unless we have a contract with them. So to protect them, let's get you signed. We'll worry about commissions later. Just know I don't work for free.
Yeah. I like it. So now that agency agreements and exclusive buyer contracts in some way or shape are mandatory, right?
Mhm.
Jen, I'll start with you on this. Have you found this? This is kind of a two-part question. Have you found it easier to get these signed, and it's just kind of because it's becoming a little more commonplace and it's quote unquote law? And have you seen it maybe elevate the professionalism of what we're doing?
Yes, and yes, I was doing it before anyway, so it's not out of the norm for me. I don't have a hard time talking about this. I don't have a hard time telling people that I work for a living. I'm not a volunteer agent.
Mhm.
So I just I think that it shows the legitimacy, like you were saying, that we are professionals. And just take somebody in a car with you for a while and let them watch you work all day. I did with my mom, who's 91, and she shakes her head every day and says, "I had no idea what you
Yeah.
guys do."
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Heather, do you have kind of a track where you can explain agency agreements without sounding pushy? Or is it kind of go into the previous conversation we just had where it's like, look, I've already done the legwork, I've already built the relationship, it's just the next natural step.
Yeah, I think that's mostly it. But, I have had those few where, people do just happen to see my sign or something.
Sure.
And in those cases, I will explain, as of last year, we're required to have this contract. But if it makes you feel more comfortable, we can either just sign for one day, we can just sign for one house, until you get to know me a little bit. And then if you're comfortable with me, then, we can talk about if you want to decide, move forward for longer term or not.
Okay. So you guys, both of you utilize, if need be, that short-term agreement, to
Sure.
kind of to help bridge that gap in that trust level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if it's
Yep.
somebody that doesn't know me yet, I don't have a problem with that.
Sure. I like it. All right. So let's move on a little bit to lending and pre-approval conversations. Jen, how do you introduce the lending process and your preferred lenders?
Very much a stickler that that is the first thing that somebody needs to do. So I have a paper that I send to them that I can send through Dotloop that I have them sign, where I have 3 lenders on it. I have also other professionals on there, so I'm not telling them what to do, but
Hmm.
I tell them what lenders in our market will not necessarily pull their credit right away, because it may be somebody who is not able to buy for 4 months. They can't find what they want for 6 months. I don't want their credit to have to keep getting pulled. So we have conversation about that. And I encourage them to talk to those lenders that will ask those key questions, and or just do a soft pull if they need to. Um, does that does that answer the question, or was it
Yeah, it
hard?
does. Yes, yes, absolutely. Um, Heather, does it matter in your market? How much does it matter right now in the current marketplace of who the pre-approval is from?
Well, just from my experience, I have worked with good lenders and I've worked with not so great lenders.
Hmm.
A lot of the times when I get a new client, that's always my first question. Have you spoken to a lender yet? Or if they're calling me saying, okay, well, what's the process? It's always, have you spoken to a lender yet? And if not, would you like the name of some people that I know and trust and that do a good job? Um, for me personally, I do require that they at least contact someone and have that process started and actually be pre-approved before we look at a house. But I want them to talk to a lender, because I always say, I would hate to go show you a house that you fall in love with, and then you turn around and go talk to a lender, and guess what? You can't get approved for that house. And then you're going to be
Yeah.
really disappointed.
You put it back on them wasting their own time versus them wasting your time, which it's a waste of both. But it's
Right.
kind of in that it's you put it in that service box. Um, there's an easy dialogue too. Like, I mean, most agents have a preferred lender because of the relationship they've created and the track record, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with putting a client in front of a lender that you truly trust, right? And so a dialogue that I've heard agents use is, hey, here's a list of 3 agents, or excuse me, of 3 lenders. But what I'd like to do, if you're okay with it, I'd like to get you in touch with this loan officer because in your situation, I've seen them do a fantastic job. Would that be okay?
Mhm.
Something along those lines. And then boom, that loan officer makes that call and makes everybody's job easier.
Yeah.
I also
Yeah.
talk about the fact that getting a second opinion could save them hundreds of dollars every month.
Yeah. Yeah. And a credit pull for a loan application or a pre-approval, there is no significant risk to your credit. Now, you don't want to do it 14 times in 2 days, right? But like doing it once or twice over a week or two period is not going to significantly impact anybody's chances of getting a home.
Right.
Yeah.
Um,
I also
But
express, sorry, I was going
oh,
to
go
say,
ahead, Heather.
I also express to them how that, if they do have their credit pulled and there is some kind of an issue that they're not aware of, then that's going to get found out. And then the
Hmm.
lender could be able to give them some pointers or some help on how to repair that the fastest way,
all right.
so that if it's not quite the time yet, hopefully in a month or 2 or 3, okay, let's try this again.
Yeah.
And here
Jen,
in
I think
my
you had something to
market,
add.
we have such low inventory that it's taking people much longer to find a house. So I don't want them to have to keep getting credit pulls every 4 months kind of thing. And I
Hmm.
work with a lot of investment people, and they don't make decisions overnight. Sometimes it takes them 6 months to find the place they're looking for.
For sure. For sure. Um, Showings and time management. So let's talk about this a little bit. Both of you, I think, are pretty busy. How do you manage multiple showings across a busy schedule? So Jen, start with you. You just kind of stated you work with a lot of investors. I started in this industry as an investor. I think I kind of know that mindset, that kind of, no frills, let's get going. But there's also a lot of time constraints and bouncing schedules around. So how do you manage, how do you manage your time and an investor's time to best put them in the best situation possible?
Well, I figured out that if I can train one young agent or new agent a year, then I have this little pool of buyer's agents that work with me. So I have a couple of mentees that I have trained, and when my load gets to be too much, I filter some of those showings over to them. And so I pay them for the showings or I pay them for a
Hmm.
buyer lead. And when I'm working with my investment clients, I'm doing a lot of videotaping. So it doesn't really matter what time of the day I go to the showing or if I pay the showing agent to do it. I just have them give me the video and then I do the voiceovers and put it up in YouTube and share. So that's how I manage my time.
I love the leverage. That's awesome. Heather, so how do you manage buyers who either have overlapping schedules or who say to you, "Hey, Heather, I want to see these 12 homes today."
Yeah, I have had that. Um, so there's obviously a process, if they send me, let's just say 10 homes, I do try to explain that if you go see 10 homes today, it's going to get really overwhelming and they're all going to start, looking the same and getting mixed up in your mind. So depending on distance, if they're pretty close, I say 5 or 6 is probably the best amount of number of homes to
It's
see
probably
at
the
the
max, isn't
most.
it?
Yeah. And I always, I say, but I'm going to bring some paper and a pen for you, and you're going to need to make notes on each of these houses and take pictures so that when we get done, and we start talking about these, you can remember each one. And then after this first group, if we want to go see some more, the next day or two or whenever you can, then we can do that. Of course, the market we're in, sometimes you don't have 2 days to go look at them. You got to look at them, that day before it's sold. So sometimes that's a little bit different strategy, but that's my normal.
Heather, do you try to strategically stack let's say you're going to show 5 homes to a buyer. Do you get a good feel from your consultation that that you kind of know which one they're going to like the best out of those 5? And do you strategically try to put that in a certain order at all?
I don't. The way my brain works, like driving wise, it has to be in a circle one way or the other.
No backtracking for you.
No backtracking. So we just do that, and it's surprisingly a lot of times the one I think they're going to like the best. I always tell my clients, you got to go taste, see, and smell this property,
Yeah,
because a lot of times, and they say it all the time, gosh, the pictures look so much better. I couldn't tell from these pictures what this house was going to be like, and then
sure.
but this one didn't look so great, and I love it.
Yeah. Jen, anything you want to add along, kind of setting up showings, working with a client that might want to see every single property on the market?
Well, I've had those. But yeah, I don't do more than 5 houses usually in a day because we've got quite a distance to travel, usually between houses here. And I usually ask them what is their favorite, and that's the one I start with. It just seems to work. It's not always the one they pick though.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
because they have it set in their mind, in my opinion, they have it set in their mind that there isn't going to be a house they're going to like better than that one. Let's just get it right off. Just start with it. And then they're going to walk to the next house and go, oh, oh. So then they're a little bit more open to the rest of them instead
Hmm.
of, if I saved it for the last and they were just convinced all the way through, well, we haven't seen my favorite yet.
Well, that's a good point. I really, really like that strategy. And, just like if you're going to go out and jog, everybody has a capacity for when they're tired. Your brain works the same way. Like you can only do so much
Right?
and you get overwhelmed. And at a certain point, it's not productive any longer.
Right. But
So,
Heather is right. I mean, I start with that one that is their favorite, but then I do the path the right way. I try. So,
yeah, no backtracking.
I mean,
So,
our time is money.
So Heather, you're in Indianapolis, right? Central Indiana,
Hmm.
that marketplace. Have you seen a slowdown in your market? Have you seen are homes on the market longer? Are buyers getting more opportunities?
It really depends on where they are. I mean, one town or area, they'll sit for 1, 2, 3 months. And then the next buyer, we go look, and we've got to write 5 offers because they get beat out of the first 2 or 3. So it's just really random right now.
Yeah.
I would say it's definitely slowed a little bit, or level, whatever you want to say the word
Leveled off
is.
a little. Sure.
Yeah. But still very random as to whether something's going to sell quickly or not.
Hmm. Jen, I have a more familiarity with your market because I live in Michigan and we have a place up there. And I see a lot of price reductions in that marketplace. But from your experience, what do you see?
It's happening, that's for
Yeah.
sure. So, when the houses were no more than 47 days on the market, they're now into the 100 days. And so we're experiencing some of that price reduction. But I would say that under 400,000, we're not seeing the price reduction as much. It's the 500 to 750, 800,000 where we're still seeing some price reductions and the slower movement. But once you get to a house on the water, it's sold.
Hmm. Good to know.
Except for my riverfront property with the pond, that's not selling.
River's a little different, probably, huh?
Right,
It's a little
right.
different clientele. You're looking for more of an outdoors person, maybe fishing, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and the house is really unique and it's a little outdated, so yeah, we're gonna have a price reduction.
All right. So, Jen, I'll come to you with this one first. How do you write competitive offers without overbidding? We kind of just we talked about this a little bit, right? Like maybe the market slowed a little, but Heather referenced it, you referenced it. There are still those homes that are priced appropriately or maybe even underpriced that are going to be in a competitive situation. So you're working with a buyer, they want to write an offer, you want them to get this home. What do you do?
Well, I guess the first point of contention would be what is overbidding?
Mm-hmm.
Because ultimately that buyer is going to be the one that's going to make that decision. How bad do they want the house? So I love negotiating. It's my favorite, probably my biggest favorite part of real estate. And then I lay out every type of way we could make an offer that's competitive, and I tell them what their risks are. And if we're overbidding on a house, I let them know what the increase in value is for that type of house in that area. So how many years will it take them to recapture what they may be overpaying? And if they are not overpaying, we have to go in at, let's say list price, and that's what I have comped it at anyways, um, then I will talk with them about appraisal gap guarantees, and other things like that. Higher higher EMD. I'm not a big one for that, but it just seems to be really popular in my area right now. Triple the EMD, and
Mm-hmm.
so we talk about it.
So I think what I'm hearing you say is you lay out the options. You kind of lay out the options for them. And I think I heard you say this too, that, let's just say something's listed at 200,000. Well, that may not be the fair market value, right? That fair market value actually might be 220. And so do you pull the comps, you do the research on that to say,
Yeah,
hey, I know it's listed at 200, but really it's 220. And if you want it in this marketplace, it might take 235.
right.
Okay. Yeah, that
Yep,
makes total sense.
yep.
Um,
And sometimes I'll even get their lender involved because I have some local lenders that have some software that they can use to really price evaluate a home differently than an appraiser does, differently than I do. And so I'll pull that data in and show them that as well.
Love it. Heather, how do you assess the seller motivation and communicate with the agent to strengthen the offer maybe beyond price? Is there anything that you found that works for you, maybe working with your client or working with that listing agent to have maybe some intrinsic value or some extra stuff that you can do that's maybe not price dependent?
Yeah. Well, I usually always, if I know that there's high interest in a property that my clients want to write on, my first thing is to call the list agent and just have a conversation, ask them, if my client's interested, what are some things we need to know? What's your seller looking for? Obviously price, that's always usually the top one, but do they want a quick closing time? Do they want, what's the inspection situation? What, just little things, all the contingencies,
Sure.
and just kind of get a feel for if there's anything special. Cause sometimes, a seller, I don't know, maybe you want something weird, or we want some
Maybe
post
they want
closing
to keep
possession.
something, right?
Yeah, post closing possession or something. So I
Or
just try to
leave
have that
something.
conversation. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that's
Yeah.
usually my first step.
Okay. Trying to find out a little bit more about, the seller's motivation in that case to
Mhm.
see if you can match it up with the buyer, with, what the buyer wants to do. A caution to the group. Have you ever accepted an offer? Either one of you had your clients accept an offer where it says we're waiving the inspection is for informational purposes only. Have you ever? Okay. I'm here to say it's probably not for informational purposes only. I think that's a ploy to get that offer accepted because I've often seen that with like a 24-hour inspection or something like that, or even longer. And then all of a sudden the buyer goes through and they're like, yeah, we don't like that. That's got this done with it. And so like as a seller, you don't have a ton of recourse on that.
Right.
So just a little cautionary tale. I've worked with several agents over the couple of years where that has come up.
You really
Yeah.
have to have specific language written in those situations to maybe even spell out that there is no more negotiating price over inspection. I have a house on the Osabo River that's in the courts, it's probate. And
Hmm.
we went under contract like that, exactly like that. And they ended up pulling out because even though they weren't going to have an inspection, it was just long enough for them to look at another house too. And they liked the other one better. And then I had to start the whole 6 weeks process with the courts over again.
Oh, yeah, that's tough. Um, Tell me, Heather, about what do you say to your client when an offer is rejected? Let's just kind of frame this up. Let's say that we go back to the conversation we just had. They just write their best offer, right? They write their best offer. They're excited. You probably think they got a good chance, and it's rejected because somebody just wants to pay an outlandish amount of money, cash or something. How do you
Hmm.
break that news?
Well, just make the call, and
Rip
say,
the Band-Aid off?
yeah, yeah. This just happened a couple months ago with a client that was moving here from Florida. And I think sometimes, to be honest, sometimes it takes them losing a couple houses before they'll really, really listen to you. We
Yeah.
Mhm.
go in and I'm like, if you really want this house, we need to do an appraisal gap. We need to do all these things. And they're just like, I don't think so, And then once they lose it, they're like, maybe I should have listened. So, but no, there's that conversation of, I'm really sorry they went with another offer. Do you want to be a backup offer? That's always an option. You can still keep looking at houses, but if something happens with this one, you could possibly get it. And it's funny because the same client didn't want to be a backup offer, and the house she really wanted came back on the market. So
Wow.
yeah, it's just, you can only lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So,
Yeah, backup offers can make a lot of sense. We make sure that, and this is for the group, make sure that if you have a backup offer on a property, that you rescind that offer before you write the offer
Right.
on the next property. Well,
yeah,
let's not get under contract in two. But yes,
no.
you know, I don't know the percentage offhand. This is a little bit of a guess, but I would say it's probably 10 to 15% of offers, and we could ask our title company folks, 10 to 15% of under contract deals probably fall through for one reason or another, financing, inspection, who knows what. So, it's not completely a shot in the dark. The challenge we run into occasionally, though, is if that client has that backup offer, they might stop looking at the other homes. So how do we, Jen, any thoughts on that conversation? Somebody wants to write a backup offer, but you know that they're probably not getting that. How do you get them to continue to look and find the right house?
So that's my buyer. That's what you're saying?
Yeah,
And they want to write a backup offer and still keep looking at houses?
correct.
I do it.
No, they want to write a backup offer, but they're in love with the house. They fall in love with the house, they write that backup offer, and in their mind, they've got an offer on that house and they just want to sit around for the next 4 weeks and not try to find anything else.
Oh, Oh,
Are you okay
okay.
with that, or do you have a conversation that's a little different?
Well, I would have a conversation that's a little different to, to really share what our market looks like. And I would be finding out what is the percentage of houses that, with backup offers, where the backup offer is then taken.
Hmm.
I don't know that percentage right now because I'm not in that situation, but I'd do some digging.
Yeah. Um, the other thing you can do is even if they want to sit for a minute, maybe they're disappointed or they want to see that that comes through, you can kind of, you know, hey, let's take a break. I understand. Let's just pause. But in the
Mhm.
meantime, as homes come on the market, I'm going to do my job and I'm going to continue to send them to you. And if something,
Absolutely.
piques your interest, let's go take a look at it.
Absolutely. I mean, there could be dozens of different scenarios. If these are a family that, they have just been hit over the head time and time again, writing many offers that have been rejected because they're very limited with what they can work with creatively, and
Hmm.
they want to just take the chance and put that offer on there and take a breath, of course, I'm probably going to buy them dinner too.
All right, I'm going to ask this question to both of you. I'm going to start with Jen. Jen, what systems do you use to stay in touch with buyers throughout the process?
Through the, so do you
Just
mean,
through the buying process. Let's say, just, through from the time you meet them and sign that agreement to the time that they close a home, do you have a
okay,
particular system that you use?
so an active buyer, not necessarily just my clients.
Correct.
So I tell all of the people that work with me that I manage my sounds on my phone. I am available for them 24/7 to get a hold of me when it's convenient for them. I think it's my responsibility to manage my sounds so that if they think of something, they can text me, they can call me, they can leave a voicemail, they can email me. I prefer not email. But that's my system. I just make myself uber available. And then of course, I'm reaching out to them, if they're a hot buying client, I'm reaching out to them multiple times a week, usually with whatever inventory is coming up because things can move so fast here.
Do you set a communication expectation with your client? Like, you kind of just shared with it that you're Uber available, but obviously there's times when you're not available. And how do
Correct.
you
And they know
address
that.
that? How do you address that with them?
I just let them know that, I do this as a convenience for them and that I'm not always working and I'm sometimes with other people and sometimes doing things for myself so that I can be, a sharp agent for them. And I will get back to them at my earliest convenience. I
Cool.
probably would word that a little bit different, but I
Yeah.
will get right back with them.
Sounds good. Same question coming to you, Heather. Is there a system that you use to stay in touch with your buyers throughout the buying process?
Um, Not like an automated system, but I'm working on some standard texts and emails for like, once you get under contract, and then
Mm,
send them that text and say, this is your next steps. I have a lot of buyers that I need to hold their hands, whether they're young or whether they're older.
Sure.
So I just try to really I'm kind of the same as Jen. I am almost always available up to a certain point of the day. I do try to respond very quickly. I do let them know that if they have any questions, that there are no wrong questions and to reach out at any moment. I am here to help, I'm here to teach, and I always explain, you don't do this every day. So you're going to have questions. I do it often. So I can't read your mind. So if there's something you're thinking about, I promise it's not dumb. Just ask me and I will be happy to answer it. So texting a lot seems to work. I do a lot of phone calls just to kind of, hear their voice and check in with them about once or twice a week. And then same as Jen, email is great, but I don't get notified on my phone. So that's like my last resort. But it's kind of the same thing with the text. These automated texts and emails that I'm trying to work on are going to hopefully be like that campaign where they're automatically going to go out to my clients once
Sure.
I get them all finished up.
Awesome. All right, we're going to finish with this question. This wasn't on the lists, but I
Oh,
promise it's not too hard hitting. Okay. Heather, what is one piece of advice that you could give to the group and that they could do today, tomorrow, next week that would positively impact their business?
Mm. Um, I'm going to say just reach out to people that you know and just say hi. Call 5, 10 people that you haven't spoken to in a while. Don't say anything about real estate. Just call them and say, I was just thinking about you. I just want to know how you're doing. Um, and or text or call, whatever you prefer. And almost inevitably, there's going to be, before too long, you're going to have somebody say, hey, I actually, know somebody who's wanting to buy or sell. Or,
Yeah.
hey, as a matter of fact, we just had a conversation about buying or selling.
I listen to a lot of podcasts and um, some business, some pleasure. And I recently listened to a real estate one, and there's a really successful broker on there that said, you know what, the most impactful piece of technology that exists in the real estate world? The cell phone. So I thought that
Mhm.
was interesting.
Yeah.
Jen, any words of wisdom, something somebody could put into place tomorrow and increase what they're doing?
I totally agree with Heather, and I've even taken my entire contact list and split them up between who I call versus who I text, because you know who those people are. But I'll share something that I've never actually heard another real estate agent share, and that is my coach had me start using the Dunbar method from the minute I stepped into real estate. And this is not about real estate, it's about business. So that method is how many times are you touching your clients? And really, if you have more than 150 clients, you really can't touch them well unless you have another system in place. So
Hmm.
every December, I put a system in place for the next year as to how I'm touching them, whether it's my email campaigns, my text message campaigns, it's my greeting cards that I send them that get mailed through a website. I pay a girl to do that for me. Or it's the Halloween bags that I drop off to my clients that have kids, or it's the Thanksgiving sign that they wake up to in their yard that says, I'm so thankful for you. I plant those in the dark. They wake up to them the next morning, those people that have been my sales that year. The first year I did everybody and it took me 6.5 hours. I don't do that anymore. So I try to get really creative with the touches, so to speak. And I'm, 6 years into this now, and now half my business is listings without me having to pay for any leads.
That's awesome. Um, Here's my little takeaway. If you haven't sent anybody a handwritten note, send them one.
Mhm.
Hand address the envelope, send them a little note. In Heather's vein, doesn't have to be about anything real estate. Just,
Right.
hey, how you doing? Was thinking about you. Saw that Johnny won the 3B baseball or whatever it is, right?
Mhm.
Something along those lines. It's easy. It means a lot. People don't get a lot of them, and they have staying power. And that same podcast I heard, thought this was interesting. This guy was talking about ways that he stayed in contact with his clients, and he didn't send them anything on their birthday. He sent their kids something on the kid's birthday.
Oh, nice.
And he's like, you would not believe how much more that means to most parents, at least the people I want to work with, when they get something for their kids and they just it absolutely loved it. So there's some practical takeaways that maybe we can put in place to stay in touch a little bit more.
So I just did a mailing. I got this idea for my daughter's bridal shower. I had bought these little packages of seeds. And for me, in my business, I had Realtor Jen and my phone number on it. And they're just, seeds that somebody can throw out in their garden. And I hand wrote every envelope and I hand wrote every card. I just had the card designed for this project and just said, Happy spring. I'm thinking about you. Let's get together.
Yeah. So
It went
I mean,
over big.
and it's pretty easy to see, where both of you are having great success with your business, and it's high touch. It's meaningful touch with your client base, letting your personality and your natural caring come through, and it brings you business.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank both of you for being here. Like I said, I know you're extremely busy. It's like the, end of the summer, Labor Day weekend's coming up. There's a lot going on, and I sincerely appreciate you taking the time to spend it with me and some of the other agents today. I think that the attendees learned a ton. So, thank you both.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks for
you.
having us.
Appreciate it.
You are very welcome. So,